Hopefully I remember everything I wanted to talk about. If you don't, you won't know, so. All right, so we're going to start with a map by IO9. This is a map of all the dome cities and mega projects from fiction. So it's video games, TV, movies, whatever. But Alaska's missing, right? There's no Alaska on this map. There's no mega city or dome city on this map. This is from a couple years ago. To get into what a paracosmic map is, we're going to talk about what a paracosm is. It's that imaginary world we all carry around in our head. It's more pronounced in artists or neurodivergent kids, gifted kids. Neurodivergents and gifted kids will spend hours every day in paracosm, kind of gardening this world. Sonder is the emotion we feel when we experience paracosms in other people. It was invented just a couple years ago on the internet, by the way. This is a very new word. But it's when we realize everybody's as complicated as we are, and everybody nurses that same thing. So my paracosm is called Wintermood. This is a landscape of a glacier, which is one of the opening spreads in Wintermood. I'm very well aware it looks like a dirty room. That sheet is a glacier. This is the dirty room of a kid with glacier powers. Every issue of Wintermood opens up with portals into another space. This is a map of two of the dome cities that were proposed in Alaska but never built. Wintermood is a world where these dome cities were actually built. So Seward Success and Arctic City here, and it's illustrated in an abandoned post-apocalyptic mall. There's going to be a lot of maps, so you ready? This is another opening spread in Wintermood, a portal into another space. This is an overworld map of Cyberingia, which in the comic books is an ancient simulation that sits on top of Alaska with all the dome cities available there. In the very middle is the Berry Wind Abandons, which is going to be very important later. This is Neo-Spinard. So the portals in Wintermood open up into new worlds. This is one of those worlds. It's up at the Anchorage Museum right now. This is Dome City, Demi Maheras, David Bram, and myself put together. Demi finished the top. On the bottom are drawings of the Berry Wind Abandons, this Dome City. All right, but we're going to talk about maps. This is an open source map. If you want to create your own fantasy world, you can go online and start filling out this map. I want you to start noticing the way the North is portrayed. There's a trope that's pretty obvious to all of us, I'm sure, that there's going to be an infinite nothingness. This is another paracosm based on the idea of Midgard from Norse mythology. The naming of the North starts to get really funny to me after a little bit. The top of this world is called the Bleak Expanse. And right below it is the Tower of the North Wind. And the North Wind is actually going to be the reason this all exists while we're looking at it. This is Westeros. Everybody's seen Game of Thrones, What's Above the Wall, the wildlings, the lands of always winter, nothing ever changes, it's white, nobody lives there, there's no culture. Like, this is part of a Eurocentric way of thinking about it. But you're probably thinking of all these other maps from other fantasy worlds. J.R.R. Tolkien, Middle Earth. We have the Northern Waste. And I'm not trying to bag on any of this stuff at all. Sonder, that emotion we feel, is why these books are fun. We're getting into somebody else's paracosm. This was a paracosm. This is something he nursed as a child and became a thing he presented as an adult. This is a very bizarre paracosm. It's called Gondel. This is Emily Bronte's paracosm from her childhood. Anne and Charlotte both had them. But Gondel is an island nation in the North Pacific, populated by Moors and covered with snow. And this is about all that's left from those childhood writings. So, Super Mario Brothers. This is the Mushroom Kingdom. Mario 3 introduced us to the notion of ice levels with paracosm. So the ice levels are the really long, hard levels where the known world gets kind of flipped upside down and you can't be in control of anything anymore. So we're kind of sliding into a more fantastic element. I bet all of you know what Equestria is. This is the world of My Little Pony. And up at the top is where Queen Diana lives. There's a reason it's always the North. It's actually Greek mythology is the reason we do this. There's Boreas, the god of the north wind. In Greek mythology, there's a continent where the Hyperboreans live called Hyperborea, the unknown northern land. If you look up at the top, this is also a map without Alaska, by the way. This is from 1570. The unknown land is where the Hyperboreans live. Boreas had a child with a snow nymph. This is about 25 years later, Mercator made a map of Hyperborea. The thing about Hyperborea, though, is the Greeks invented it. So in the middle of Hyperborea, it is not an infinite white expanse of nothing in winter. It is a wonderful Greek normal environment where people do things like worship Apollo all day. So this is from 2023. This is last year. Somebody took a map with Alaska on it and put Hyperborea where it would be technically geolocated now. So this is what it would look like with that, I'm going to call it a domed city in the top, because now that Alaska is part of our conversation again, this is from 1959. Alaska has just become a state. People in the US, lower 48, are very excited about coming here, but they don't want to live in the cold. So what do? We build dome cities, and we travel to them through airships. But inside, everything could be nice and normal. So back to Wintermoon. That's my Paracosm that built the dome cities that were actually proposed in Alaska. That was a real newspaper clipping. Those were real dome cities. They just never happened. This is a video game I'm currently developing that's a map of that Berry Wind Abandons. It's like a Xanadu, but it's trailer parks in Muldoon that kind of pop up all over Alaska. So when you beat the Berry Wind Abandons level, this is actually what opens up the expansion on the video game, which is the Wintermoon Glacier, which is a glacier from the Younger Dryas, the last ice age, and a space elevator, which goes up to a new unknown land, similar to Hyperborea, but it's a civilization in the northern lights. Thank you.